Hey everyone. Hope you guys hear me. Um Still waiting. I'm live. Join. I'm just waiting for Lamise, Ali's sister, to join us. Maybe she doesn't have the right invitation. Maybe she's in a different place. Not sure. Where are you? Where are you, Lamise? Well, anyways, does anybody hear me? Okay, I think people hear me. Still waiting for Lemise to join. This is I'm very unfamiliar with this YouTube live situation. So, and I imagine that Lemise is also quite unfamiliar with it. So, I guess we're just waiting for her. Where is she? Oh, found her. Found her.
I'm right here. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Everyone is
Hey,
here.
you have everybody waiting.
I know. It's great. I'm glad everyone has journeyed their way here. I know for a lot of you, this may be the first time being on YouTube Live. Quite a cool system. It's almost like this weird merge between Instagram Live and Zoom. Yeah, so I guess to continue the conversation, we were like the last we spoke about is how we can continue to preserve the good of the people that we lost. And I guess the question that always comes to my mind, whenever I write the songs that I write or engage in conversations with people that don't know our brothers who've passed, I think about how I want them to be remembered and how they would have wanted to be remembered. And I think that a crucial question is how would have someone wanted to be remembered? And so when that question comes to mind, how do you want your brother to be remembered? How do you want how do you imagine he wanted to be remembered? And what are the ways in which we can all remember him?
For me, like definitely as Ali, and like people from the neighborhood will like completely understand that and stuff. And like I think about like his youth and like the brightest sides of him in the sense where like he had this very like outgoing personality. He was like so charming and left like an impact on everybody's life who like he came around so effortlessly in the sense where like my dad would phrase it as like everybody he met seemed to have like formed an attachment to him
Mm.
just off of like the first conversation or the first interaction and stuff, just in the sense where like he was so loving and loved like to such extreme extents and stuff, and everybody who he came across in his life, even if he knew he wasn't going to know, even if he knew it was just going to be like a momentary interaction with them, he still wanted them to like love him and have some type of happiness, like when they came across him, whether it was like his friends or whether it was girls or whether it was like principals or like people in the courtroom, like everybody seemed to like kind of like fall in love with him and like his personality and who he was, like he's making jokes, he's charming people, and like he was like a small like good looking kid, cute kid and everything, and he knew that about himself, and like he used like that charm to the best of his ability to like make like everybody happy around him. And like I think that's like an important part of him that like should be remembered, like how loving he was, how caring he was, and like how he wanted everyone around him to just be happy and like feel a sense of happiness, even if it was just off of his smile alone. Because trust me, he was always smiling.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's funny. It's like I think that's the first thing that I would mention as well. It's like how Ali can come into a room and like the whole room is filled.
Yeah,
The energy in the room is completely transformed
and he
now that he's
had
in it.
so much energy. Like his personality was like so big. Like he had a huge personality. Like he steps in a room and he knows he is the room.
Yeah, absolutely.
taking over, and like even though he's so small, and like he's making sure he doesn't fall in the background. He's making sure his voice is heard. He's making sure he has something to say. He's making sure like he leaves knowing that he's gonna be remembered.
You know, that's so it's incredible because there are people that do that, and when they do that, they're kind of just being so intrusive and they're taking over other people's space. But I think Ali did it in such a way where everyone also felt good about themselves and
Yeah,
felt comfortable with themselves, and he still managed to be the center of the room without making anyone feel like
hmm
they were smaller than him. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like the full extent and stuff, and like I think for like those reasons, like he did it so effortlessly, and like for those reasons, like whenever there was like community events and stuff, because like our community was really like brought together and stuff. We were always having barbecues, shows, like anything we could do for the neighborhood, like it was being done. And like growing up, like they always wanted him to do it. They wanted him to host all the shows and stuff, just because they knew that like he was that loving face that like could really like take a room over in like the best ways, and everyone in the room would like fall in love with him.
no, absolutely, man, and it's true. It's absolutely true. So I think like, man, it's like when you're able to recount someone in this kind of way, you know what I mean? It's like it's like it's so beautiful just to even have this conversation. It's like a is an art form in itself, you know, that someone can take this and now their understanding of Ali is this conversation, you know, for like for the people that are watching and that are writing, you know, it's like it's and that's why it's so important, you know, like this is like such a great example of why it's essential to write someone's memory down, you know what I mean, in whatever form it wants to take, whether it's like a letter or whether it's a song or whether it's a film or whether it's a fund or whether it's an
Mm-hmm.
organization. It's like, you know, trying to like, you know, preserve or like stimulate like, you know, their memory in the way that you want them to be remembered, you know what I mean, even if just in a conversation is such an important thing to do, you know, because if we're not out here recording our stories, if we're not out here like, you know, documenting our lives, it's like someone else is going to do it on our behalf, you know,
Mm-hmm.
someone that's not
Yeah,
from our community is going to do it on our behalf, and we know that Regent Park is being gentrified,
yeah,
you know, it's being
yeah.
broken down. And so when people return to that community, all they'll have in 100 years time or 50 to 100 years time is like these photos and these documentations, and we just have to make sure that like that that the people we love are being documented by us and
Mhm.
not people that didn't know them, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel like that's like so important and stuff, and like because I don't want his memory to get lost as like another statistic or another stereotype just off of like the way that he passed away, because like he had such a positive like impact in the neighborhood so effortlessly, just off of being who he was and making like everybody around him so happy. And I feel like those are the parts of him that like should be remembered most, not just like what like society seems to like attach to his name or
No,
whatever it is.
yeah,
I feel like it should be the brightest sides to him. That's what's gonna like, help him the most in the afterlife and everything. And just, remember him for like who he was, like who you knew him to be. And like I know for like almost everybody, pretty much everybody, like that was like such like a happy, loving, like excited for life type of person, just
no,
spreading like joy and love everywhere.
no, for sure. And I think that when people know that, it actually allows for them to have more passion when they're making
Hmm.
dua for him or when they're
Yeah.
praying for him. Because now, like, having, like, you know, coming around to all these beautiful characteristics about who someone can be, it's like, you know, someone can pray that, like, you know, he can continue to be that in paradise, you know, that he can, like, that for the good that he did on this earth, you know, let that serve as a protection for him where he is
Hmm.
now. You know, it's just like, it's important for people to know because with that knowledge, it kind of it allows for them like the kind of the tools to make more like pointed and like, you know, and effective prayers, you know, and it's like, and that's all that we could like, you know, that's all we could do for him. So I think now, I guess for the final question, I want you guys to know that as soon as we end this call, it'll direct you straight to the premiere of the video, which is happening in 3 minutes now. So I just wanted to ask Lemise a final question. The question is like, looking ahead, you know, thinking about your own little brother, you thinking about the other kids in the community, who of course are suffering from like the lasting effects of trauma and of grief and of like, you know, kind of the suppressed these kind of like all of like the feelings and like the mourning that they've kind of suppressed and they haven't had like conversations around. What are the ways in which like, you know, the community can begin healing?
Wow.
It's a heavy question, but I mean, like, even if it's just like the first step, it's just like you actually gathered all of like the guys that I couldn't even gather together to have this
Mhm.
conversation in the community a week ago, and I love to see people join in on this conversation. But I think, what did you take from that conversation, and how does the hood heal? How does the hood heal from all of those losses, and what is the beginning of that healing process? Healing is a lifetime, it's a lifetime effort for sure, but it's just like, how can someone begin that process for themselves? How do you think?
I feel like speaking in terms like the neighborhood like as a whole and the community and those guys like overall, like I feel like that discussion that we had was like the first step, and the biggest thing that stood out to me from that conversation that I had with them was the fact that they wanted to have these type of conversations, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they all came just off of the fact that it was me asking. I said I need you guys here, and they came just because it's me asking. And then when we were there, they actually dove right into the conversation, and they were so willing to get heavy. And I feel like we don't really acknowledge how much they want that and how much they need that. So just like that first acknowledgement was that first step, and like moving forward, like making sure we do have those conversations more often, and like we make a space for those conversations, because I feel like with like the revitalization, the neighborhood like breaking down and falling apart and stuff, like that sense was lost, if it ever even did exist. So I feel like we have to just be like so much cautious, so much more like cautious and like attentive to that, and making sure that like we're looking out for that, and making sure that like we provide spaces for them to have these conversations, and we provide like we bring people into the neighborhood, make it normal for them to talk about these things, make it normal for them to be like aware of like their mental health, and to make sure that they're doing okay after something like that happens.
Yeah.
You know what I
No, that's a beautiful response, and it's like, and it actually takes us to the final minute here, and yeah, so may Allah preserve Ali, may Allah grant for him, the highest level of paradise, and may He reunite you and your family and all of us with Him, in a place far better than this. Thank you
mean?
so much for taking part in this conversation.
Thanks
This
for
is
having
No, man, it's a complete honor, and thank you for being in the video. You guys are gonna see her in the video. You look great. Don't worry, and yeah, so we're gonna end it here, and it's gonna take you straight to the